Today, Kerry and I have been delving really deeply into both of our trauma, and we've been talking and sharing about how our spiritual beliefs have got us through and given us the strength that we've needed to tackle it and come out with lessons and stronger. Before we get down into it, I do just want to mention that some of the two topics, they are quite deep, they are quite intense, and so it's just a little bit of a trigger warning that it may and can trigger some people. It's really important for Kerry and I that we have a podcast that's authentic. It's about speaking our truth. It's about stepping into our own power. And so some of the topics, they do dig deep, they do delve down into our emotions. So it's just a little warning there. So let's get into it. Okay, Kerry, let's show people that we mean stuff. We're in this for the big stuff. We're in this for the deep stuff. And I suppose we kind of mean business. So and if we're going to ask people to talk about things that can be quite painful and quite deep sometimes, let's talk about our journeys.
Emotional.
That's okay. That doesn't matter. That's fine, because it's what it is, and neither of us want to pussyfoot around what we're doing here.
I know why I'm getting emotional.
And it's really important. And I believe that there's two ways that people change. One of them is because they are so desperate and in so much pain that they have no choice. Or the other one is repetition, and that is hard as well, And so for a lot of people, they find themselves on this path because they've literally been to places that they're just not prepared to go to anymore.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to share this story, and I just said to you, didn't I? I said, I'm happy to share this story, and I've just getting emotional, but there is a reason why, actually. So it'll be coming up to 3 years in September. I lost a baby called Chloe, and I got to 34 weeks. Never been pregnant before, had a really healthy pregnancy. Found it very challenging being pregnant because I've been in the gym constantly, and I've got this really bad fear about my arse going down my ankles. And when I was pregnant, I was, I think as every woman does, they struggle, with the body changes and stuff. But yeah, I had a healthy pregnancy. I had to have a stitch in my cervix because my cervix kept opening. So that was that. And I was just having this pain, constant pain. And I went in, and I was only in there for 5 days. And I got discharged, and she was gone within sort of like a few hours. Well, not a few hours. I got home, and I was still in pain because I had my stitch taken out, and I had to really kind of fight to get my stitch out. Because I guess when you're in the hospital, you trust them, what they're doing.
Of course you do.
But I had this feeling that, that she wanted to come out, and they wouldn't listen to me. They just wouldn't listen to get, my stitch out. And eventually they did, but nothing actually happened. It was really bizarre. But I left the hospital, went home. I think it was in the afternoon, and this pain started to get bad. And then I ended up going back in, and then I had to wait for a while, and they couldn't find her heart rate. She'd gone. And the partner I was with at the time, I didn't cry. I held it together. Sorry.
No, you don't need to apologise. Honestly, Kerry, you don't need to apologise.
Yeah, I held it together. I'll tell you why I'm getting upset, actually. Because, I'll go into that in a second. But I was his rock, and I just didn't cry. And at the time, he couldn't handle it, and he ended up going because it was just too much for him. But I still had to stay at the hospital. I still had to give birth. which was, even though it wasn't very nice what happened to me, I'm still, I know this sounds weird, but I'm still, I don't know what glad is the right word, but I'm glad I had the experience of giving birth.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really bizarre,
No,
because
I can understand that.
And and I held her, and it was really bizarre. It was all very surreal, and then I had to go in a room, and they kept bringing her in, saying, hold her, have some, but I was just shut. I think I must have shut myself down, really.
Yeah.
And talking about it just sounds really surreal, because I never thought I'd want children. Sorry,
no,
I'll keep saying sorry. But the guy that I was with, I thought, yes, I really want to have children with him. And I kind of left the hospital. Obviously, I wasn't happy with what had happened, and I didn't understand how I could have lost her in the 5 days. So something must have gone wrong. So I wanted to understand. So obviously I did go to a solicitor, and they've been looking at my case. And actually the case finishes the 17th of July this month. That's why I'm getting upset.
Yeah.
And I think it's been going on, the case, for about 2 years. And I think I haven't been able to move forward, but now it's coming to an end. I can move forward.
Yeah. So how do you think, what resources have you pulled on to cope with this, to get through with this? Because this is a really, traumatic experience.
Well, I'm quite a strong person, and everybody knows me that I'm really quite a strong person. And when I used to talk about it, that it happened, my friends were like, the way you talk about it, it's like you've just ordered like a coffee at a coffee shop. And I said, really? But it wasn't. Unfortunately, the relationship didn't last that I was with, through various other different reasons. But I didn't actually grieve until I came out of that relationship, because I think I held myself for him as a rock, really. But going back to your question, my friends, having that support, and because I'm so sort of open and spiritual, I pulled on my friends that were therapists, to kind of help nurture and heal my body as well. That really helped. But just having really supportive friends and family, which was really important. And and I probably still haven't quite, there's probably still stuff, because grief is a funny thing. It's a process. And then obviously I had to grieve the end of the relationship as well. So that was really tough. So, and I mean, I'm not one of these people that posts stuff on Facebook and social media, but I did actually put a picture of Chloe on Facebook to honour women out there that have lost babies and stuff like that. So
that's a really brave thing to do.
Yeah, it was really. And I think knowing the sort of verdict coming up in the next couple of weeks, I can kind of close that chapter. I think you never close it, but kind of end that kind of cycle, really.
Yeah.
And I really didn't expect to cry. That's just mad.
Well, it shows how raw, and I think things like that are always raw. I think we always get surprised by them.
Yeah.
But I think, what does it take to be strong? I think there's a huge difference between putting it in a box and forgetting about it, and pushing it and pretending that it doesn't exist, which you and I both know doesn't work for anybody, because that energy is still there.
Yeah.
How did you face what had happened to you?
How did I face it?
Yeah.
I think I really kind of went into a deep So I worked with a therapist who's actually my best friend now. She's amazing. You know who you are. And I had EMDR.
Yeah.
And I had EFT. And she really helped me go into that trauma and release, because it's really important to not store that trauma and those emotions, because they stay in your body. So it was really important that I released that trauma in a really supportive, healthy way. I had a lot of healing, Reiki healing as well. What else did I have? Just really supportive friends, nurturing myself and listening to my body, really.
Yeah.
But I suppose how I deal with I suppose everybody's different how they deal with their stuff, really. But because I've been quite spiritual for quite, a young age, I trained as a life coach and various different things. Those tools really, really helped me sort of come to terms with it.
Yeah. So what do you think could have happened if you didn't have those, those tools? And for all the people out there who go through similar things and they haven't got that support network.
Oh, God. Well, there is people out there, isn't there, really? I don't know. I think it does depend on the type of person you are. Mm. And I know I'm quite a strong person, I'm very stubborn. And but I think somehow I did detach because of dealing with it, really. Because I thought, well, that's what the body does. It goes into protective mode and you just kind of detach. But I think if I hadn't had my spirituality and my kind of the therapist and the network I had, with my friends, but then I am very... I am close with my family, but not probably like really super close. And I kind of went within kind of thing. But, if it wasn't for that.
Yeah. Do you think about Chloe now?
Yeah, she pops. I've got a photograph next to my bed. And my lovely friend actually made me this lovely crystal bracelet. It's got some little baby feet on it.
Oh,
I go and visit her grave every now and again, and I guess she'll always be a part of me.
Yeah.
And I read something actually that said once you've had a baby in your body, a part of them stays.
Yeah.
Have you heard
I've
that
heard
too?
that as well, yeah.
Yeah, in your body. And apparently when you are pregnant, they will heal parts of things about yourself as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
There's different stories. I don't know the name of the author, but he talks about babies that come and visit in the womb. What do they call them?
I don't know, but you've made me go goosey saying that, because I was just about to say, we keep doing this. I was just about to say exact same thing. They come, they say, don't they, that they're souls that aren't their mission or whatever it is that we do. Their lesson isn't to incarnate on this planet for a long period, for a life. And so their time is just in the womb. And I think to be in a position where you can process that as a learning thing, I think that takes so much strength, emotional awareness, spiritual faith. Yeah. To be able to see it like that. And so what are your takes from that experience?
Well, I did go and have like a reading.
Yeah.
Nobody's actually picked up on Chloe, interestingly, but I did have a reader say that she came in to teach you lessons and the person in the relationship as well. And then I thought she probably came in and thought, fuck that, I'm not coming to planet Earth. Sorry, I swore.
No, don't worry, that's all right. That's
you got to bring some lightheartedness to it. But I just thought she probably came down and thought, I'm not coming to this planet, I'm off, see you later kind of thing. But she did give me lessons. I can't speak for the person that I was with at the time, but she definitely taught me a lot, how really strong I am. And I think us women are, kind of, that's why we give birth to babies, I guess.
Absolutely.
So, but I have heard that about how
I've heard
I can't remember his name of the author, but and that might not resonate with everybody. They might think, well, I don't think so. I mean, yeah. So, but I think if that's what feels right and that's how you want to look at it, then that's absolutely fine, really.
Yeah. I think, if it doesn't resonate with some people, that's okay. Because I think that's the one thing that I want you and I to be really proud of, is that everyone has the freedom to be their authentic self and to speak their truth.
Yeah.
And if it's not somebody else's truth, that's okay. People can kind of take it or leave it. And just another question that I find really interesting. What do you think is the difference between a mask that's portrayed as strength? So some people are very good at putting that mask on, or kind of real strength that comes from your gut, real strength. What do you think are the differences, and how can you see those differences in yourself?
I've always been the type of person that wears my heart on my sleeve, if I'm honest. I lived in America for a while, and I remember out there you'd say, "How are you?" "Oh my God, I'm awesome." I'm like, "No, you're not. You're having a shit day," kind of thing. Yeah. I can't turn up and go, "I'm amazing, thank you." And when I'm not, I do say, "Well, actually, I'm not feeling like this today," kind of thing. And sometimes people don't know what to do with that information because they're so conditioned. Yeah. It's like it glitches the system. Because people go, "Yeah, I'm really well, thank you, I'm really good." But when you actually say, "Oh, actually, I'm really having a bad day." They kind of sort of like glitch, when you say that. And I think, again...
Stop for 1 second.
Yeah, it kind of like throws people, really. But then again, there's people are quite private and they don't want to say, "I'm having a not very good day today." So it depends on the person and where you're at and how comfortable you feel about sharing. I would say I am a strong person. I am strong, and I will get upset and I'll share my emotion, I think. And
I think that's the key thing, isn't it? It's okay to share your emotion.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know how I said sorry when I was getting upset, and I wasn't. We are a nation of sorries.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, why am I saying sorry? It's quite interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting. But
why did I do that?
Yeah, that's what we want to. Because it's we're British. Stiff upper lip. It's not okay. I mean, it is changing. It is changing.
Could I have changed it into a different word? What else could I have said? I don't know. I'm processing.
But I think it's even, I think one of the most cathartic things we can actually do is to cry. It's our body's way of lowering our cortisol. Yeah. So every time we cry, our cortisol levels go down. How amazing is our body that it does all these things, and yet we've been taught, "You're all right, get up. Don't cry, don't do this, don't do that." When actually that says more about the person that's saying get up because they're uncomfortable with our tears.
Yeah, definitely.
But tears are such a good thing. And I think, to feel our emotions is so important.
It's so releasing.
It is. And otherwise they stay.
Exactly. And also I use this analogy with clients. If you do not express your emotion, because you have a feeling, if you don't express it, articulate it, get it out of the body, it has to go somewhere.
Yes.
Where is it going?
I know.
And it will go round and round in the body, and it will find the weakest part of your body, fester in there, and then manifest into a physical problem. Yep. You have to find a way to express your emotions, which is not easy for people. No. And especially when you're brought up in that generation of shut up, put up, and crack on.
Yeah.
And people think, well, I can't say this because I look stupid, or there's so many things that go on for people that they can't speak their truth, but it's so important to say how you feel and speak your truth. And I feel lighter for actually, and I didn't expect to cry, but I'm human.
You are human, and that's the whole thing, isn't it? We're all in this together, and we're all, no one escapes it. No one escapes this. And I think I find it really upsetting and sad for people that there's so many people living their life depressed, anxious. Depressed is people that have been repressed. It's repressed emotions that are doing exactly as you say. We're pushing everything down.
Yes,
we're telling ourselves it's not there, and it is there. And I'm a real believer. Again, take this or leave this. This is just my personal opinion. It's not there for anyone else to take on board unless they want to. That a lot of our physical ailments, cancer, one of them, they're manifestations of energy, blocked, stagnant, bad energy that we're just not letting go of.
There's that book. I keep mentioning books, and
no,
I
you're
can't
allowed.
remember. No, I can't remember the name. There's a book called "The Body Speaks Its Mind," and I've used it quite a few times. And you literally look at the physical problem, and it will tell you the emotional reason, and then it'll ask you a question. And often, when you acknowledge what that emotion is, then sometimes the physical problem just dissipate depending on how far you've gone by not expressing yourself. So speak up, guys. It's really important.
It is really important.
So what about you?
Well, I just want to say to you, thanks for sharing that. It's not easy.
Thank you.
It isn't easy. And I don't think it's, especially because we're so new to this as well, it's not easy to feel those emotions and share it with whoever's listening, so it takes a lot. So, and I'm sure. So just one other question. What would you say to anyone who your story resonates with, who's going through that and feels, it's...
Well, I think maybe it's very important to have really good friends and talking and having those type of friends that lets you repeat and repeat. Because I noticed that I would repeat myself constantly, and I was like, oh my God, I'm saying the same thing, but actually it was my way of it was part of the healing process. And I actually put a joke. There was this post saying, thank you for letting me say something 250,000 times or something. It was like a post I saw. But having really good friends and knowing what kind of therapies are out there. I know there's stuff on the NHS that you can go to, and I know it's challenging with the NHS at the moment with waiting lists and stuff. But there is people out there that do a whole range of things, and obviously, if that's comes down to cost, you can do like, go into a sound healing or, there's so many different things out there that can help people. Getting out in fresh air is really helpful. Being you can join these like these gatherings, and you don't need to talk about exactly what happened, what's happened, but just connecting, just talking about stuff. And it's really important to process it, get it processed out of the body, I think. So
absolutely. And I think, guys, if there's anyone out there who resonates with that and is really, really struggling and doesn't know where to go, we have a girl here called Kerry the Fixer.
The Fixer.
So, write to us, comment. I don't know enough about this yet, but I have a man who does, and he'll be able to say whether you just comment and, we can message privately. But that's the whole point of this. That's what it's about, that people don't feel alone, that they feel supported, because we can definitely point you in the right direction, and I know Kerry can point you in the right direction, and that's what this is. This is all about. It really is. So,
thank you. Bless you. Thank you for listening to me. So, what about you? What's happened in your life that
Well, 2 years ago, I had a very big experience that changed my life hugely. I mean, the things that I'm doing now are as a direct result of my experience. And I went to Turkey for some surgery. Yes, you. I'll give everyone that moment for disapproval because I've had it from everyone. But that's my truth. It's what I did, and thank goodness that I went to a reputable surgeon in a proper hospital with an intensive care unit, because if I didn't, I wouldn't, be here now. And I went for some surgery, and I woke up in ICU, paralysed, and I literally heard this noise, which was like it was the noise of the ventilator, and I heard the noise of the beep, beep, beep of the heart monitor. And it took me, which felt like an eternity, but I'm sure it was very quickly, a moment to realise that those noises were mine. They were coming from me. And I can physically remember the moment where this penny dropped, and it was I don't think I'm very well. It was just this moment of, and then I thought I had that locked in syndrome because I couldn't move. I didn't know that when you're on a ventilator, they give you something to stop you. Well, they do in Turkey, whether that's standard in every ICU, I don't know. But I was completely paralysed. I couldn't move. And I thought, oh my God. And that's when I started to panic in my head. I didn't even ask why I was ill, which is really bizarre. I just knew I was not well. And then I thought about somebody called Joe Dispenza. And if ever
good old Joe
Dispenza, who, he's written some amazing books, but, to cut a very long story short, he was found himself with a terrible back injury, was told that he was never going to walk again. He found himself in a hospital on his stomach, thinking, what the fuck, And he said to himself, right, I'm going to meditate myself out of this and I'm going to heal myself. And 12 weeks later, he was up and walking. So he went completely against everything else. And he said to himself, if I get myself out of this situation, then I am going to share this with the world. And that's exactly what this guy has done.
Yeah.
So as I lay there in bed, I didn't think about my family. I didn't think about my animals. I didn't think about my husband. I thought about Joe Dispenza. And I was like, shit, if that man can do it, then so can Paula Williams. and that's what I did. I meditated. I lay in that ICU and I meditated. And I saw beautiful colours and energy. And it was my saviour. And so if I hadn't got all of the tools in my basket, if I hadn't had years of dipping in and out of my spirituality, if I wasn't able, if I hadn't read his books, if I hadn't followed him on YouTube, if I hadn't done all those things, I would not have been able to do that. Now, I'm not saying the rest of my experience in ICU was pleasant, because it wasn't. It was pretty shitty. But actually, every time I felt myself start to panic, I'd go back into a meditative state, and that was, that was it. Again, before they took me off my ventilation, took me off the ward, I had somebody come to see me to tell me that I'd actually had a cardiac arrest, which I didn't, because I didn't know. And I'd had a cardiac arrest and I'd been gone for 10 minutes. And I was actually, Kerry, and I can laugh about this now, I was really pissed that nobody came to see me. I didn't have this woo through the tunnel and all the light and the stars and and I really was quite annoyed about that I could not remember a single thing about it. But I was just grateful that I was there. And anyway, so I came off the ventilator. They took me back to a normal ward and everything was hunky-dory. And then the real experience happened. I remember them putting me from the trolley that they carry you on onto the actual bed.
Yeah.
And then I had another cardiac arrest. My heart stopped again. And I remember this one. Okay. And I can remember out the corner of my eye everyone shouting and everyone running around. I can remember going to breathe. And, you know, we've all at some point felt breathless and you're like, you can't catch your breath. Well, that wasn't possible because there was nothing there working to breathe.
Wow.
So it's almost as if my brain was saying, you need to breathe, but I couldn't because there was no apparatus working in order to do that.
Yeah.
It was the most bizarrest thing. I can remember the machine that they put over your, pump it themselves over your mouth.
Oh,
it's like a manual
like a
thing,
hand.
a hand.
Yeah.
I can see that out the corner. I can still see it now out the corner of my eye. And then all of a sudden I was, okay, this is my time. And I felt the most peaceful feeling I have ever felt in my entire life. I cannot explain that feeling to anybody. And in that moment, I knew I was dying. I knew I was going. And I said goodbye to Craig. I said goodbye to my husband. And the really weird thing is I said goodbye to my business. Which, I'm sorry, family. I'm sorry, animals. I'm sorry, everyone. I don't know. And I just relaxed into it. I relaxed into it. And it went from pure terror and horror to the most calm, beautiful feeling. And then I was on the ceiling.
What, so you could see yourself?
I could see myself. I was on the ceiling and I could see them working on me. And I remember thinking, again, no one came to get me.
Yeah.
A big white tunnel didn't open up in front of me. But when I was up on that ceiling, I was very aware that I was out of my body.
So like the movies?
Yep. I was very aware that I had, I wouldn't say died, but I was very aware that my body wasn't working and they were trying to get it to work. But I could hear everything like a crystal bell. My senses were heightened. It was almost as if I had become nothing but my senses.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I woke up back on the ventilator in ICU.
Oh.
And I remember thinking, oh, okay.
Wasn't your time to go.
I'm all right, you know. And that's when my shit started. Because then I was, and I am going to swear, fucking scared. I was back to reality and they were going to take me off the ventilator. They were going to take me back the ward. I was petrified. I was trying so hard to articulate to these Turkish people that they weren't allowed to take me back to the ward because I was so frightened it was going to happen again.
Yeah.
I was terrified it was going to happen again. And they took me back to the ward and Craig was there. And then I was frightened of everything, Kerry. I was frightened of leaving the hospital. I was frightened of being in the car. I was frightened of, because I was in a foreign country, I was frightened of going to sleep in case I didn't wake up and I stopped breathing. I was frightened of walking down the road in case I was going to drop down dead. I was scared to hell.
So you were living in fear.
I was living in a pure bubble of fear.
Wow.
And every time that fear came, I meditated.
Okay.
Every single time, because I just didn't know what else to do. So I remember sitting on the balcony out in Turkey and saying to myself, right, kid, you've got two choices. You are either going to go down this whole path of mental health, anxiety, and you become this fear and you live this life, or you're going to have to bloody face it. And you're going to have to deal with it because that's what life has given you right in this moment. And so I chose to allow it to come. I'd sit with the fear. I'd let the fear come up and I would make myself in my mind. I'd go back to the ICU ward and I'd imagine myself and visualise myself sitting next to me and I'd stroke my head and I'd say, it's going to be okay and you're all right. And I promise you, you just meditate, you just get through. And then I was getting really good at this, and I'd take it back to when I was a child.
Wow.
And I would sit with myself as a child and I would say to myself, right, this is going to happen to you. But when it happens to you, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You're going to come through this, so you just surrender to it, you give into it, and I did it over and over and over and over and over again for months and months and months. And the fear, it would just well up in me.
How did you know to do that? Like that technique you're talking about, to talk to yourself, and how did you know to do that?
Do you know, I think I kind of knew, one, instinctively. And I think as human beings, if we're connected to our intuition,
yes,
we've got the answers to everything. But I almost feel, you could almost say that everything I'd been learning for the last 20 years, because that's how long I'd been on this spiritual journey, and I'd trained as an NLP coach, trained in counselling, trained as a holistic therapist, in hypnotherapy, as a teacher of meditation, had all been in preparation for this moment.
Yeah, so you had the tools.
I had the tools.
Yeah.
The key thing, how did I know to go back to myself as a child? I don't know. I just did that. I just felt that I needed
to
do that.
Thing.
It was an intuitive thing. And now I look back on that experience, and it was probably the greatest gift that life has ever given me. Now that's, to some people, may seem really warped, but what's happened from that is some key things. The first thing is, I know without a shadow of a doubt that our consciousness is separate from our physical body. I've experienced it. I know that, so that I don't live with. Energy for me is what we are.
Yes.
And it is separate from our physical body.
Yes.
And I know that. There's nothing that's ever going to change or shake that for me. I believe in the power of meditation. I believe in the power of positive thinking.
Yes.
And I believe in the power of our own strength. I just think that we are conditioned to think that we need all these external things, when actually, if we have the ability to sit in our own strength, then we become incredibly powerful human beings.
Yeah.
And that's what that experience taught me. I had to work for that experience. It didn't just happen. I could have very easily, especially with my mental health and my past history, have gone down a different route. But I didn't, and I didn't because of what I'd learned. And I think that's why I sit here with you now.
Yeah, and I think it kind of ties in what you asked me about strength, really. And the only way through is to feel.
Yeah.
And to face those emotions.
You have to.
When you say it gave you the greatest gift, what was that gift?
So in the last 2 years, I've come to know myself.
Yeah.
I know what I'm capable of. I trust my intuition. I have found, whenever I'm faced with something that really troubles me, I think, well, if I can deal with that, I can deal with anything.
Yes.
Literally. So that's how I see things now. I have found the strength in the last 2 years to assess what serves me well in my life and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And I have stepped into a spiritual life. I do live a spiritual life, and I feel really blessed. The experience also gave me a connection with nature, and animals, which is profound, and it's really beautiful. And I think through my experience and my learnings, it's now given me the platform to create space to pass on my learnings to other people when they're ready, because the one thing that I've learned is that we're all on our own journey.
Yes.
And that we as individuals will learn the lessons that we need to learn when we are ready to learn them, and not when anyone else tells us we have to learn them. But for people that are struggling, I think that's the good thing that can come out of, and I think that's where you and I are alike, and that's where there are so many. You speak to lots of people that are in service. So in service to me is here to help humanity.
Yeah.
You know, to live in a different frequency, a higher vibrational frequency with a loving heart, have been to hell and back.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think what's come out of that experience for me is to those people out there or those people that are listening who feel like they're in hell and they have nowhere to go, you don't have to live like that.
Yeah.
You just don't.
No, absolutely. And I think, you know, that spirituality is so important.
Yeah.
Call it whatever you want, really. But you mentioned about using your intuition.
Yeah.
You know, for people out there that don't know what intuition is or how they use it, like, what could you kind of say to people out there about trusting their intuition? What is it?
So our intuition is something that's innate within all of us. I mean, we all have a superpower, and I believe that our intuition is one of them. But again, we're just not tapped into it. We're not taught it, especially in Western culture.
Yeah.
And our intuition is that gut feeling, and everyone experiences that. So I'd say to people, how many times have you known something? You do the complete opposite, and then you go, I knew it. I knew. You went completely against what your gut was telling you. How many times have you kind of, well, this is slightly different, you know, we're talking about energy now, but you've thought about somebody and then all of a sudden they text you.
Yes.
Or, you know, this is all this innate stuff that's within us, but your intuition is your inner guidance, your inner knowing, your subconscious that we don't have access to consciously.
Yeah.
And it will tell you where to go. We just have to trust it. And sometimes that's so hard. It's like we've all had, when we were young, the boyfriend that you knew was bad for you. But oh my God, he was so handsome and so cool and so lovely. And your intuition was like, no, don't go there. And all your hormones and everything else was going, yes, go there, go there, go there.
Yeah.
And then you get
We've all been
treated badly. And you just think, I knew. Why didn't I listen to myself? You know, and sometimes it's hard to listen to yourself.
It is hard. It's confidence.
Yeah.
It's building your confidence to trust your intuition.
Yeah.
I would say I'm pretty there now where I don't doubt my intuition.
Yeah.
I confidently say my intuition is pretty spot on, but it does take practice and a lot of trust.
Yes.
And again, going back to society, we are so mental, we're so in our heads, and we have to learn to drop that down into our heart, because the heart, you know, knows best.
Yeah, it does. Well, they're saying that the heart now is another brain on its own. So we've got three. We've got our gut, our heart, and our
it's a whole different
brain.
conversation. That is
another whole different conversation.
Yeah.
But intuition is a key thing. And the thing about that as well, isn't it, is trust. But it's just trust in yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
And why do we find it so hard to trust in ourselves? Because there is nobody in this world that will have your back more than you can have your own. No one.
Exactly. And that's why we give our value in someone else's hands and our everything into and it's all about bringing it back to you.
It is. I always think of the analogy of on an aeroplane, the oxygen masks come down. I hope no one's ever had to experience that, because it would be terrifying. And you give the oxygen to yourself before you can help other people.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's it. You know, when you are kind of emotionally strong, self-aware, you're trusting your inner guide, because that's what it is, your inner radar, your inner you've got so much more to give to other people.
Yeah.
And yet we deplete ourselves, people pleasing, leave nothing for ourselves.
I know.
And we're doing it all the wrong way around.
We do. It's time for shift happens. It's time for the shift.
But that's it, isn't it? It's the shift. That's what that's exactly what we've just spoken about. Two huge, great big shifts.
They have been, because without what I experienced, because I could have looked at it like yourself, like, why has this happened to me? This is bad. I mean, it's not a nice experience. I'm like, okay, this has happened to me. I'm processing it. I'm accepting it. What has this taught me as a person? It's about growth and lessons. And I'm a great believer. Things happen to us sometimes because we are here to learn lessons for us to evolve and grow.
Yeah.
It's all about your perspective and how you view things, really. I mean, what would you say the greatest lesson that the situation that you went through, your experience, what has that taught you?
It's taught me that I have got my own back.
Yes.
And it's taught me to trust myself.
Yeah.
And it's taught me that when I am in a good place, when I am in a position of self-love, self-respect, then I will attract and do attract those people into my life. And I think that's what it's taught me. And I believe that isn't just my superpower. I believe it's everybody's superpower. We are just not taught it.
Yeah.
A lot of Eastern cultures are taught it.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? Yeah.
They are taught it. But we're not in the West.
No.
And it is something that we're really lacking. And I think it is every human being's superpower. And I'm going to keep calling it a superpower because it's who we are. And it's time now to shift into your power.
Absolutely. Yeah. I actually feel quite lighter now.
Yeah.
I've spoken about that. It feels quite freeing.
Yeah, it is.
How do you feel?
I kind of got used to talking about it now and bringing it up. And I feel, again, as I've said, if it helps one person, then I'm cool with that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think also, Kerry, with what we want to do, and we want to push boundaries, and we want to, bring people in, and we want to talk about healing. So I think we got to earn the right to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So, we are real people and things happen to us and, we haven't got everything all together, we're doing the best we can, really. Like everybody is out there, we don't have a handbook. We have to kind of just sense our way through. But having an intuition and strengthening your intuition definitely does help navigate through what I call this movie that we're in.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you. I really do hope that you've found some kind of value from what we've talked about today, and it's been thought-provoking. I know some of the subjects we've spoken about have been quite sensitive. Really appreciate your feedback. Please do comment and subscribe below. My question to you would be, where have you had to be strong in your life? Where are you perhaps not trusting your intuition? We'd really love to hear your thoughts and your feedback. Thank you.